Welcome to Ghost Stories with the Ghost Brother. I'm your Ghost Brother, Dalen Spratt. And on this series, it's my job to search through the internet looking for some of the most craziest true ghost stories and share them with you. It's your job to sit back, relax, and just take it all in. But before we begin, I need you to do a couple things for me. First and foremost, like, subscribe, and comment on this channel so I can keep these stories coming. And number two, you gotta set the vibe. So sit back, cut the lights off, and make sure everybody's quiet. Because these stories are about to get really, really creepy. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, do you truly believe in generational curses? Could a spirit be following a grandfather, a father, a son? This next story pretty much seems like it, but you be the judge. When I was little, up until I was about 6 or 7, I had two experiences that kept happening over and over and over again. The first one was a scene that would play in my mind early almost every morning. It would happen completely outside of my control, like someone was flipping a switch. It was a very small, flashing vision of our family. My sister and I with our mother standing next to us. Our father would be standing a few feet away, crying tears unlike anything I had ever seen before, trying to sing the song, "I Will Always Love You." But due to the intensity of the crying, the words would be stuttering and unclear. It seems pretty lame now, but when I was young, it left me feeling totally freaked out and anxious. Now, I'm willing to concede that this may not have been paranormal. My parents' marriage wasn't that great, and as much as there was no physical abuse, I have come to learn that my father is a narcissist who uses emotional manipulation to get what he wants. I can wholeheartedly imagine that this image was a reaction in my own brain to my father's behavior and not necessarily to anything spooky. However, the experience that followed this strange scene, usually not always, has a far darker meaning. After the image of my father's breakdown singing dissipated, I would look around at my bedroom wall to be met with the face protruding from it, as if the face had itself morphed from the wallpaper. It was white with black pupils in its eyes. It spoke in a low voice, always rapidly, and always said the same three nonsense words. I wouldn't even know how to spell them, and after several attempts, searches, have no clue as to what they mean. Anyway, my best guess is Owa Ninja Toby. They look silly written down, to be sure, but as a young boy still in nursery, they were terrifying words. As I approached the age of 35, I still refuse to say them out loud. The last thing I want is to see that face again that sent me running through my parents' bedroom in tears. We moved out in 1995 and it never appeared in our new home. I went back to that house with my dad when we visited the new owner, which would have been probably late 1998, maybe early 1999. I stayed in the hallway, not wanting to venture into any room in case I should once again encounter whatever it was that I had haunted my childhood. At the time, I was struggling. My parents had divorced in a couple of months before the visit, and my emotions were all over the place. Before we left, I took a few steps forward to look into the old living room and the playroom beyond, which was now a dining room. As I moved past the kitchen, I saw it emerge above the countertop. As I locked eyes with it, I expected to hear the usual nonsense words. Instead, it just stared with a stern, menacing look. I walked slowly backwards out of this line of sight. Since then, I've never seen it. After a few years, I began to think it must have been my own mind expressing psychological stress. The childhood my brother and I shared was not a stable one. There was a lot of shouting and tension, which only got worse after our parents split. My brother and I were both affected by it, and we both bear scars. It made sense to me that when I was so young, the only way my brain could cope with something like that would be to personify it and give it a face. Cut to December 2010. My brother and I are watching Ghost Brothers live with my dad. It's Halloween night, and we get to telling some spooky stories. My dad tells us about the transparent people he used to see in his room as a child, going in and out of his wardrobe. He told the story without any fear, saying that it became a natural occurrence after the initial shock. It weirded me out because I had slept in the same room with my grandparents' house, thankfully not having ever seen anything. I was building up to recounting my story. As a child, when the apparitions were at their height, I had been warned not to tell my brother. He was 2 years younger and would not have coped with the fear. However, I felt that 17-year-old would cope a little better than a toddler. I open my mouth to start the tale, and my brother cuts in. He then spends the next 5 minutes telling my father and I about the face he used to see in his bedroom wall in the old house. He even said the words. My first look was to my father. I could only believe that my brother had told him as I did, and that he had kept it from both of us to avoid our winding each other up and scaring each other all the more. He was as shocked as I was. He remembered clearly my experience, the tears, the early morning freakouts, the reluctance to sleep in my own bed. My brother had never mentioned it. He had written it off as a bad dream, and though he had been upset by it, he had never fully disclosed the details to either of my parents. When I told him I had also seen it, he became quite despondent, clearly shaken by the thought that it might not have been a nightmare. My brother's a grown man now, and a father, and a confirmed atheist with a strong disbelief in anything spiritual. He still refuses point blank to discuss anything to do with the face, and visibly pales when the subject comes up. Hearing my brother tell the same story left a lasting impression on my emotions, and has forever altered my perception of what may have well been a haunting, perhaps even a demonic infestation. Right? That one was crazy, right? It seemed like that whole family just had a whole lot of secrets that they weren't sharing with each other. Like everybody's going through the same thing, but nobody's telling each other. See, that was their first problem. I feel like the spirit was just trying to bring the families together. They could co-mingle and co-bond over this spiritual entity. But nah, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I saw a face protruding through my closet, first, calling the police. Two, I'm getting them out of there. But kudos for them for staying around, man. But that is crazy. And I believe it. I've heard all type of stories about spirits attaching to families and literally having interactions with generations of families at separate times. So if you're going through something like that, man, you better get together, work together, and piece it together. Well, this has been another amazing episode of Ghost Stories with the Ghost Brother. And I'm your Ghost Brother, Dalen Spratt. So again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And I'm going to keep these stories coming. And I'm going to always tell the truth afterwards. See you next time.